Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever. We're bringing you some Link to the Past Randomizer Tournament group stage action. We've got some Group A-B action coming on here. Call it a loser's bracket round 2, call it a last chance match, call it whatever you want. We've got a matchup between Qirn and Paraducks64. Winner of this best of 3 goes to the bracket stage. Loser is out. Calling this match today, I'm Reg. I'm joined by Hammer Bro. So Hammer, we saw this matchup in the first part of the group stage. Qirn took it 2-0. You thinking we're going to see an upset? Well, I call it an upset, but really, Paraducks, very good player. So Qirn took the 2 games, but how many do you think we're going to see here?
I mean, isn't the goal always more rando? Like, isn't that?
That's what we always love to see here, yeah. Close games, exciting games, more games, because more games just equals more excitement.
Yeah, so 3 games, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter who wins the first one as long as the other person wins the second one. Maybe a tie in there to make it 4 games. I mean, let's just go nuts, right? Why do we even stop at 3? We can just keep going.
Yeah, tie rules for this tournament are a bit different. Make that, let's just leave it at highly unlikely.
That's fair, but since we're in highly already, there's a chance, right?
Sure.
I'm sorry, normally I wait until the gameplay starts before I actually make a terrible joke, but that one just set itself up. Alright, so we are doing a standard mode in case you haven't seen many of these races. This is also hard mode, so Reg, I'm going to turn the tables on you. Why don't you let us know what we're not going to be seeing today?
We're not going to be seeing hearts 15 through 20. Not going to be seeing the silver arrows, although there are 2 bows in the item pool. First one you find is your bow. Second one is going to turn into a green 20. Swords, similar situation. You're going to see 3 of them. The 4th does exist. Will turn into a green 20. Armor also exists. Gets turned into green 20 from the start, so we're stuck on green mail. Mirror shield does that as well. And here's our map check. That's a red crystal at the Tower of Hera, blue crystals elsewhere, and we're going to go see what Uncle's going to give us.
And that's kind of interesting, getting those darn near synced map checks. Most people usually wait until after Escape to do them, but I mean, I guess the sooner you know, the sooner you can kind of map stuff out based upon what Uncle gives you, and if we do find something useful in Escape, you know, how that would determine our route. How about a hammer?
Nah. Fire Rod's really nice because you have to wait through the burning animation if you shoot anything with it, like we're seeing on Qirn's screen there. But anything that it does hit, it will kill in 1 hit. And we do see guards are in the magic pool, which is nice to get just a little bit of refill here, but means they won't be dropping bombs.
Yeah, that's kind of a funny thing to see there, because I mean, on the flip side, it means that you can use pretty much as much magic as you want, so long as you don't get super unlucky with the drops. But since everything in here is going to be in the guard pack, it's kind of one of those. I mean, you can keep shooting it, but it's not going to get you anything you need for bombs.
Yep. So it's a little bit of a catch-22 there. And we're seeing neither of these guys going for any kills that they don't have to get. Like, we'll see them kill these blue guards that drop keys both here and in the room with the boomerang chest. We'll see them shoot the ball and chain guard, watch him burn. That's going to be pretty satisfying. And they'll kill 1 green guard that his death opens the door.
And then in the second half, we might see some indeterminate amount of rats die, depending on how quickly we get the drops and what those end up being.
And whether we find any bombs in any of the next couple chests.
That's also a good point. I keep forgetting that's an option. It never happens for me, so it is really nice when it does happen, because, you know, then you don't have to worry about bombs.
You know it'd be an even nicer find, though? The boots.
That is fair. That would open up the hole in the back of Escape, and it would allow us to go fast.
Yep, those nice little circular holes that there aren't that many of in the game. Like the one in the sewers, the one in Sahasrara's hut, the one in the race game, actually, and a couple others throughout the game. can be opened with the boots instead of the bomb. So I think we just found our rat farming tool.
Yes, we did. Unfortunately, it's a little more difficult to farm rats with it than it is to farm snakes in that snake room, but we found another item we can kill things with that also uses magic, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, because the next big magic drop in the magic prize pack is at the 5th slot, and I think both of these guys are only on the 3rd. Their next drop will be the 3rd. They've both seen 2, I think.
I believe so. Paraducks may have only seen 1, actually. I think Paraducks only got the big one, but I might be wrong about that.
Yeah, either way, it does mean that that second big magic drop is pretty far away for both runners if they do want to try some farming here. But we do see Qirn playing with his quick swap a little bit, having fun, just tapping those L and R buttons.
Yeah, I feel like if we were going to see some farming there, we would have seen them pick up at least one of those pots and try and get like a free drop and then maybe assess it from there. But neither runner wasting the time, and honestly, that's for the best. The odds of you getting something super useful here and being able to use it to get bombs out of the rat pack, Qirn, stop it, you're distracting me, is very, very unlikely.
Yep. Good news here is that we have already seen the map and the small key. Guaranteed item in the Dark Cross, so last chance for bombs. Assuming they don't go farm rats, which, honestly, with Qirn sticking on the cane, I'm expecting him to once we actually get to the sewer part of the rooms.
Yeah, I imagine we'll get our farming after the rat key room, just in case things go south, and with 10 arrows there, that's not going to help us.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually. And yeah, both runners prioritizing the rat key, which Qirn's on about half a bar, Paraducks on about 3/8. Probably the right thing to do here. I didn't see a drop on Qirn's side, but I didn't notice if there was one on Paraducks.
I don't think Paraducks got a second rat. I know Qirn did, but I don't think... And rats are just part of the rupee pack, looks like, so no bomb there either.
Yep. And Paraducks got a fire rod shot with the splash damage to learn the same, so both of them just going to be on through, hoping to find a glove so that they can just drop back in later and get it at their convenience.
And about 5:40 for both of our runners, which is a really good escape time.
Yeah, I think Fire Rod speeds that up a bit compared to the typical sword benchmark, because even if you do have to wait on the burning animation, it's much faster on the ball and chain guard in particular. But 6 minutes is typically the benchmark you want to shoot for. Like both in vanilla with its text boxes and cutscenes and in rando, actually it turns out to be about that, just because of the farming in rando more or less cancels out the text boxes. But learning that they didn't have to farm pretty early helped. Not having to go open those chests also helped. Bushcrab having red rupees also helps.
It does, and I'm not certain that Qirn is going to know that. I don't know if Qirn's going to go all the way up here to the crab.
No, and if he doesn't, which that lamp, and I think that was just another red rupee on Lumberjack, but Paraducks doing the early Lumberjack check is a play that I really like when you have very few bombs and rupees coming out of the escape in standard mode. The Qirn is going to get his money, though.
And this is going to be nice, because with no bombs and not much not much in the way of money, you want to make sure that you at least have enough to be, okay in Kakariko. Paraducks absolutely loading up here.
Yep. I think both of them are going to get 2 tree poles, a tier 2 and a tier 1. Paraducks gets 2 bush crabs for the extra, 160 rupees he's got over Qirn. But and Qirn taking the save and quit after realizing there are no bombs to be had. I'm expecting he'll take a south route to Kakariko here.
I would imagine so, yeah. Yep, so we got 2 50-50 bushes coming up on Qirn's side in just 2 screen transitions. And that means that if your luck isn't terrible, you can usually farm up 3 or 4 bombs relatively quickly. And then you don't have to worry about terrible routing in Kakariko or playing the... There's one. Or playing the, do I skip the back of blind or hope there's something there? Do I skip the back of the well or hope there's something there? It gets scary.
Yeah, and we see Paraducks just made a mad dash for the tavern here. Qirn's got 2 bombs, going to take that into the village. Paraducks going to buy his, go back to the north part of the village. And I have seen a couple runners skip the race game and library checks after doing this, just to save that doubling back. So that is an option. We do see race games nothing. He won't be punished for that. Library we'll see in a couple seconds here on Qirn's side while Paraducks blows open this chicken hut.
And that is interesting, because if race game had been something, as there were rupees on the library, Qirn could have been in a situation where he's going into Kakariko with 1 bomb, and that could be unideal.
Nah, when you're coming in from the south with 1 bomb, that's just fine. You blow up the chicken hut, and then you just walk right south and buy them. And then you just go.
Right, that is a possibility, but that also could leave you short for Bottle Vendor. It's not very likely. You're probably going to get enough money here in CAC, but you're not necessarily guaranteed. As we do get a glove there, so Back of Escape not being accessible early, not really that big of a deal.
Yep. And then you combine that with the lamp we got in the woods and the hook shot we got in the chicken hut. Sure smells like Death Mountain to me.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's what, 8 items over there on East Death Mountain itself, not to mention the couple that we can get/look at on West Side Death Mountain. It's a pretty lucrative check.
Yep, 10 items in relatively short order, in addition to that save and quit point. But first we've got these 5. We'll see if they pull us in any particular direction, or if they just make the mountain even better. Although I do expect that since we're going to save and quit either way, we'll probably see the Back of Escape first, because we know that is 3 items, and you're going to have to save and quit out of there too.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if either runner goes for as Paraducks. As you said, not concerned about the library or the race game. We know there's nothing there, but you might have to come back and check that later. It'll be interesting to see if they do Back of Escape and then mess around with South Shore at all, or if it's straight to the mountain.
Yeah, that's another good point. Like, without the Moon Pearl, without the flipper, South Shore becomes a marginally less attractive option because the fake flipper play becomes a marginally less attractive option. But that is something that is on the table, and they could try to hold out for like Mitts and a Moon Pearl so they could get Dark World Death Mountain as well.
That's an option. There's also the possibility of pulling something like the Hammer or the Mirror, and there being progression up on Harrow, which you don't really want to have to climb the mountain twice in short order if, let's say, Hera has the Moon Pearl, for instance.
Yeah, the Paraducks did pull the Pearl out of the Back of Escape, and that kind of makes the South Shore play look just a little bit better. Not rich enough to afford whatever King Zora's selling, but can at least get what's in the waterfall and scout out what's on the ledge if he wants to take that play all the way through.
That's a fair point. Can't afford it yet, but we do have, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 checks if Paraducks can find something to Ancilla delete, or the flippers, if not 10 checks before Zora, so all we need is 300.
I wouldn't necessarily call that 11th check before Zora, but sure.
I mean, that's fair, but if you can Ancilla delete, or we have the flippers, you know, and there's 300 on the ledge, Paraducks would probably grab it and then turn back around. So
yeah, it would be a very slow, frustrating, painful walk, but you do it to not leave that item behind when you're already as close to it as you'll ever be.
Exactly. I didn't say all those checks were ideal. They're just there.
Now that 50 is a bit of a start. I think we're going to need this. Yeah, there's 300. We were going to need to see that either way to be able to afford Zora. I think there's just not enough other large rupee packs in the pool.
Yeah, pretty much everything at this point would have had to be, I think there's 1 100 and another 50, or maybe 2 100s. We would have pretty much had to see the largest denominations of rupees that we physically could, if we didn't see a 300 to be able to pull Zora. Now, it's interesting here, Qirn with quite a quite a bit fewer rupees. So it's going to be hitting up this crab, which is nice because that combined with the 300 is going to be enough to put Qirn over the edge too.
Qirn got 160 rupees off that crab. That's ridiculous for a single crab, even if it's dropping 20s.
It is, but that crab was also one of the most ideal patterns I'd ever seen. Just kept walking downwards slowly. So you could literally just eat, and then finally came back up, but at that point it wasn't. Qirn had already pulled like 120 and a small magic out of there.
Yeah, that's actually something that you don't see very often on the bush crabs anymore. But I think it's their 6th prize, their 6th drop, is something different. I want to say it's a red rupee in vanilla, but
it is. It's normally blue rupees up until that red rupee, and then and then you get the red rupee and then it goes back to blue. But because it's rando, you get something special. So if you're really comfortable with working one of those bush crabs, you can try and see if, even though the first pull isn't anything, the second pull is something that could be useful, like a bomb drop or something. But it is difficult to get, and in my opinion, requires a bit of lucky RNG to be able to manage it.
Yeah, like sometimes, especially when you're around the lumberjack or the woods, the bush crab will just drop its item in a location that is just blocked by some other sprite and you can't get to it. The lumberjacks in particular are notorious for that.
Yeah, that whole hitbox is kind of fun.
We do have Paraducks on the fake flipper route, though. Hobo was nothing, but gonna swim back to Zora here. I don't think we saw the Hylia Island when he was coming up to Hobo, so we'll see it afterwards. He'll circle around to the whirlpool from there. It's nothing.
Not surprising. It's not anything unless you don't check it. Then it's something.
Yeah, it's always worth having that information, regardless of how you have to get it. Just nothing feels worse than not checking it, and then it does turn out to be something, and that's your go mode late game.
Or even if it's something that gives you a hint. Well, you know, if we had a hammer sitting on there, or even a glove, that would kind of give us an idea, okay, Agate Dark World much more likely because of what's sitting there. But as it is, there being, 3 bombs up there or whatever, not something we're worried about.
Also not something we're worried about on the ledge there, just that piece of heart. That's sure to turn into a green 20 by the end of the game, so we're just not going to grab it, especially since we cannot grab it.
Are we going to talk about the fact that the Waterfall Fairy just gave Paraducks a slight upgrade of a B?
I didn't really plan on it. I also don't plan on talking about what Zora just spat out.
I looked away and I feel like it was probably for the best.
Let's just say he didn't pick it up and leave it at that.
Ooh. Yep, 10 arrows. Just saw it on the restream. That's fun.
Yep. With that done, we're not going to see anybody go to Sahasrara at this point when we've got the mountain open to us, especially with no bow to make Eastern Palace itself not a particularly attractive play, being a crystal that we can't complete. So it's mountain time.
Paraducks grabbing a little more money after that Zora basic clean out. We're running a little low on rupees. Those 220s put him just into the area of pod entry, which we may need sooner or later, depending on where our Dark World access is and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I feel like the only way we need pod entry soon this seed is if there's both a hammer and a bow on the mountain. Without that, I feel like we'll either just start at the village or start at Hype Cave, whichever these runners prefer.
Yeah, and outside of the mountain here, we do have the eastern area, which is going to have 5 or 6 items at our disposal, again, depending on what Armos Knights has, or depending on if there's a bow sitting in eastern. But we also do have Agha's Cave and Sick Kid. both of those being completely and totally one-offs, and not being attractive plays at all either, but they are there.
Yeah, I expect that we'll, unless the mountain is totally dry, I expect we'll not see Sick Kid until they're going to the Dark World in the Village of Outcasts area. Whether that's with the mitts or hammer before or after Hype Cave, your choice.
I love that you're assuming we're going to get actual Dark World access.
I mean, we're closer to that than we are to killing Aghanim.
That's a good point. I don't know. I just feel like Rando's out to get me at all times, so I feel like the odds of pulling a cape and a sword, or 2 swords, more likely. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a hook shot, so if it does turn out to be Aghanim, they can just kill him and then walk up to the hook shot point and hook shot across the river. That is always an option.
And it's a somewhat unideal situation, because then you find yourself in the situation of, do I go into pod or do I go across? And as we get a bow out of there and the mitts, a good call on that. There's our, at least most of our Dark World access. Again, we're going to need flippers or hammer to logically get to the other side, although I'm fairly certain that both of our runners are going to know how to bypass that. So as long as we can get a bomb jump across the river or some other sort of shenaniganry, I'm fairly certain we're not going to be seeing Aga today.
You know, I heard Qirn's pretty good at that bomb jump. Yeah, that's kind of a secret, though. You didn't hear it from me.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't hear it from you, but I'm pretty sure everyone in chat did, so...
Nah, but for those who are not in the know, that bomb jump to get from west side of Dark World to east side without flippers or hammer is named for Qirn because he discovered it. So yeah, he knows of it. Probably pretty good at it.
I don't know, I feel like it'd be kind of funny to like discover something but then never get it really good at it and have it named after you. I feel like that would just be a hilarious happenstance.
Kinda, yeah. But we've got a Dark World map check.
Okay, so green pendant Turtle Rock, red pendant Skull Woods, and blue pendant Ice Palace.
And 5/6 crystal at Palace of Darkness.
Thank you for catching that.
So yeah, the eastern pod area right now looking moderately attractive. We are missing that hammer, which does mean Palace of Darkness probably a double dip. But I do expect that with mitts for Dark World access, that's one of the last things on the runners' minds right now, as they're probably hoping to find the mirror and the hammer before they think about that.
And at 21 minutes, we have our first sword of the game and a very useful bottle to go with it. How about a bottle pre-ordered with a blue goo?
You know, we've already got, what is this, 9 hearts? You take that.
I mean, I feel like since we're not going to get any armor upgrades throughout the entire thing, you take it no matter how many hearts you're on.
You see that?
Rock.
Yep. That could very well be in the depths of Ganon's Tower.
I mean, we really, really hope. You know, that's one of those situations where the easiest and best thing to have, if you have a Shuffle for Go mode, hello. If you have a Mire or Turtle Rock pendant, the best case scenario is that you just never find that medallion, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Yep, it's the same thing as just never finding the mirror for Pendant Swamp, or never finding the flippers.
That's fair. I feel like not finding the mirror is a bit more stressful, though, because like the longer you get into the game and don't have the hammer, the more likely you are to have a situation where, or the mirror, the more likely you are to have a situation where you end up getting a super late game mirror, and that can really, really suck. Because then that puts those checks are just completely and totally orphaned, and it's terrible.
Yeah, that's bad. That's why you cheer when the item's in Ganon's Tower. Look, we do see Paraducks bum rushing that shovel fetch quest check. Gonna loop it in with these 2 checks he skipped earlier, that or nothing. Then going to check Sick Kid. Then going to the Dark World.
Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty ideal situation. Normally for MITs, you'd start do a save and quit from the Sanctuary, but obviously given these couple of checks that we had left over and the recent discovery of the shovel, it's easier just to route it in from south to north. So Paraducks not losing any time over Qirn, having to, I guess, double dip the southern Kakariko area, since Qirn's going to be walking by it or skipping that shovel check.
Yeah, I would expect Qirn to put off the shovel for now, is what I'm guessing he'll do. But compared to Qirn's save and quit routing from Lost Woods to the south route into Kakariko at the start, and then Paraducks basically just doing that now, yeah, there's no real time loss there.
All right, we do have some divergence here. Qirn is taking that bow and is going to say, you know what, I'm not too worried about the possibility of doing Pod and Eastern together. We're just going to go ahead and knock out Eastern now.
It's a pretty dense set of items. Knowing that Skullwood's a pendant, Paraducks is still going to head for it, but it does make Skullwoods less attractive. And then on top of that, you're looking at Thieves Town is a crystal, but you have no hammer. You risk isolating an item there. And Eastern Palace is just your always be clearing thing, so it's a crystal you can do.
That book is kind of interesting.
It would be more interesting if we didn't have Dark World access already.
Oh, absolutely. I wasn't necessarily meaning it for desert access, although it does give us that too, just in terms of that being another check up the mountain now that we couldn't quite get, along with Hera and Spike Cave, because we didn't have the hammer.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's something to just make the return trip to the mountain marginally more appealing. Hey, 3rd bottle, 2nd blue goo, you take those.
Wow, yeah, that's absolutely nice. That's a situation where, you know, if you're playing hard mode and you're not super comfortable with the lack of safeties you might end up with, that's a pull.
Qirn went to where the item was. Good job, Qirn. So yeah, now after this, he's going to finish Eastern. He's going to walk right down to the flute spot at 5, do Palace of Darkness, then go to the Dark World and be really happy with himself.
And this is where things get interesting, because the hammer is absolutely required for several dungeons and locks an item in Thieves Town specifically. So at this point, if you want a close race and you don't want Paraducks to be completely and totally just not have fun with this lack of hammer, you're kind of hoping that everything the Paraducks skips here and cannot clear doesn't end up being something useful, because if that is the case, it's going to be a while before Paraducks comes back.
Yeah, like basically, if you're really wanting Paraducks to take it here, like obviously that hammer is very good find for Qirn, very not good find for Paraducks, but if Paraducks finds a lot of items, like we need Flippers, Mirror, Cane of Samaria, Flute, maybe Boots still.
And some sort of medallion.
Yeah, so like if he finds like 4 of those 6-ish items along the way, which that's a medallion. I'm not sure it's the one that he wanted to see, but it is a medallion. So like if he finds a bunch of those items and they're just there, available, not hammer locked, he'll go to Eastern sooner rather than later, because it is the crystal that he can do, and he'll be in good shape.
That's fair, but then you also run the risk of, oh, that's a really nice sword. It's nice to have a relatively early Master Sword like that. You also run the risk of, like, because Eastern and Pod are both crystals, depending on what you get, it could push Paraducks somewhere else. You know, like we are a Samaria and a Flute away from being able to just go clear Mire if Mire is Bombos. If not, then we need that medallion as well. But all of these things could just push Paraducks farther away from that hammer, hoping to find it before we go into the eastern area.
Yeah, and that's actually... I think Paraducks does not want to see the small key here in any of these checks that he's doing in Thieves Town, which, rest in peace, that idea. Ideally for him, you would want to see Blind, the boss, be logically hammerlocked by small key and big chest, because that would give him some information about the seed, especially if Blind dropped progression.
Yeah, that's absolutely a good point. Qirn having a little bit of difficulty with those Igors and letting them know about it.
Yeah, it wasn't able to get that fourth arrow off, so had to wait a couple seconds. And I think he lost his quick kill by killing that second Armos. Yep. So there's a couple more arrows. And that's going to be the first crystal of the race, just shy of 29 minutes.
Yeah, pretty good time, all things considered. Especially given, the fact that we have Dark World access now. It is something that Qirn decided not to worry about yet, and that has, thus far, looks to be extraordinarily helpful. Qirn not jumping into pod, that's kind of interesting. I wonder if we're going to get a Hype Cave play first.
Yeah, saving and quitting there, going back to Link's house, definitely signals that to me. With the mitts, he can just reverse loop all the way back up to the village.
That's fair. That is another opportunity. I'm not sure that he's going to do that or still jump into pod. It'll be interesting to kind of see that. Because you can go either way.
Yep, you could go to the pyramid and pod right after Hype Cave, or go over to the village. I'm actually not sure which one he'll do, because they both lead to clearable crystal dungeons. But
I feel like my preference would be pod, only because Skull Woods is a pendant. And if I can just avoid going into Skull Woods altogether, then I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Magic Powder being the only thing of note in Hype Cave. And we've seen both the map and compass in Thieves Town, so Paraducks leaving an item behind, we will have no idea what it is until Qirn gets it. And while Paraducks not in a bad situation in the race, you can't call him behind or anything right now, that's the sort of thing that you have to be worried about. Like, just us as viewers having all the information when we know that hammer was available to him and he just doesn't have it.
Right. It's very much a double situation of potential terror on Paraducks' side, because on one end you have the potential of, obviously there just being something there. And if there's something there, then Paraducks is obviously in a terrible spot. But even if there isn't, if Paraducks is one of those runners that, leaving something behind bothers, then that's also going to be playing on his mind the entire time. And that's not something you'll necessarily know unless he decides to grab that hammer and goes back, which I would not anticipate for anything other than basically a last location.
Exactly. Like, you commit to doing this dungeon without the hammer, there's an item in the big chest, you are committing to last locationing that. There's no way around that.
Exactly. It's pretty much the exact same thing of if you go into Zora area and you don't have the money for Zora, then you're basically playing if I don't pull a mirror and go check Catfish and do it from there, I'm never coming back and checking this.
Yep. Or something like Left Side Swamp, for example.
Exactly. And that's the thing. With these runners being so good at the game and having gotten so fast at clearing things, not just in terms of routing and trying to understand what the seed's telling you, but just in terms of sheer item check per minute skill, you can't go back and do things. You can't. The only way Paraducks gets away with something like that is if Qirn's in the same situation. That's the only way. If Qirn's not in that situation, or something similar doesn't happen to Qirn with a different item, as we get a humorously bow-locked pod that doesn't matter because we have it, then you're just going to lose the race.
Yep. But at this point, you can't be worried about that if you're Paraducks. He pulled 3 dungeon items out of the front 4 of Thieves Town. he cared about that, he would have just death warped out and been gone, which would be a minor time loss, but not nearly as big as leaving the big chest behind.
Exactly, but then you play the odds. Okay, like if I don't leave this behind, what are the odds that it was the right play? And just percentage-wise, those odds are not in Paraduck's favor. You know, it's a situation where he could get in trouble by skipping it, but the odds of him getting in trouble by skipping it just without knowing what's there, pretty slim. So, you know, if you do take that death warp, then you're taking a definite time loss for a very small chance of a time gain.
Yep, and that's why he went, and that's why it will likely turn out all right for him.
Qirn, meanwhile, routing Pod the best that he can with no mirror. Pod, no mirror is just, it's not fun, ever.
Yeah, especially with no boots for this room in particular. Like, that's just a super underrated item to have. Because you can just bonk back to the bridge. He's going to do a nice little bomb jump.
That's my favorite bomb jump. I'm so glad to see someone else use it. Now people can't give me a hard time, because, like, hey, Qirn does it too.
Is Paraducks? Oh, he's taking the... He doesn't have the hammer, so he's taking the water route to Palace of Darkness. This is unfortunate for him, because we know the hammer's sitting there on the eastern side, in the light world.
Honestly, best case scenario at this point is mirror in Pod. You find the mirror in Pod, you go ahead and get your butt all the way over to the big chest, you death warp out, and then you mirror, you clear eastern, find your hammer, go back into Pod. No real time loss.
Yeah, that would definitely not be terrible. Third sword of the seed, so I think both runners going to be on tempered, because Paraducks got his sword in the first 4 of East Town, so not missing that.
And that's really nice. I mean, 35 minutes and we know where 3 of our swords are, and they're along the way. I'll take one of those, please. Qirn setting up a bomb jump of a different kind. This bomb jump lovingly referred to as the hammer jump, and it's kind of a pain. Double pixel perfect. You have to worry about your Y coordinate, your up and down on both of these, and then just hold up right there, and there we go.
Yep. Took a few more pause buffers than I think he would have liked there, but still faster than failing it, having to reset the room, and Pegasus boots.
It's a nice find. It's not our mirror, but it's a nice find.
That is also not our mirror, but also a pretty solid find.
Yeah, so at this point, Paradox is going to be double tipping Pod.
Yep, and does not have that just very easy, convenient warp back to the light world for Eastern. But if he's coming into Pod now, I have to imagine Eastern's going to be his next play after he saves and quits.
And that is one of the good things. Pod not giving us anything to push us in a different direction. We didn't pull flippers to potentially think about one of the 2 water dungeons, although I highly doubt Paraducks struggling a little bit here with this red mimic. I highly doubt Paraducks would be heading into Ice Palace without a hammer, and I way more unlikely he'd be heading into Swamp without a hammer. So, not to mention we need the mirror for that. But yeah, Pod not really giving us anything in terms of distraction, which is nice. We do have a couple of checks the boots unlocked, and then with the mitts we can technically do the smith chain, but nobody really wants to do that without the flute and without the mirrors. So that's going to be pretty low on the priority list.
Honestly, smith chain with just, there's not smith chain, but Smith himself with just boots. Not too bad, because you can loop in the boots checks with the smith turn in. But yeah, Paraducks taking the death warp here, that's what he was doing on the mimic earlier. Just taking all that damage, just because that's a little faster than using those jellies for it.
Yeah, good call. I didn't even consider that at the time. I was just very confused.
Also, chat's asking about the vanilla big key chest and the Stalfos basement chest both being small keys. I believe that is correct, just from counting. Because there has to be at least 4 keys in the front.
Yep, I want to say you are correct about that as well.
Here's a Homosaur fight. Holding out the sword like that slightly extends the hammer hitbox, makes it a little easier to chip away at the mask. And then 17 hits of that. And finding spots where he can get it in on the jewel. And it's 8 Master Sword slashes, 8 arrows, spins count for 2, so there you go.
Yeah, nicely done there. Helma being kind of a brat by pinning him in that southernmost wall, but then on the flip side, kind of helping because then you're right there, and Qirn had enough health to tank a couple of hits there.
Yep, and Paraducks here setting up another Death Warp off these flames. Although, did he leave anything behind in the front, or is this just going to be a save and quit? I think this is just save and quit.
I think we're going with an S&Q here, yeah.
Oh no, hasn't been to... No, he's been to the Dark Basement. He's got his Tempered Sword. Not sure what he's looking for here.
It might be a situation where Paradox isn't thinking about the fact that the basement has to be a small key and is maybe thinking there's a key there. Or
he needs the key regardless, but...
Or Paradox is going to nope out of here and grab the, go up towards the Catfish area.
Okay, Catfish was not on my mind, but that is a play. And Qirn actually taking the boots and the book over to the Desert Palace region. It's actually going to be a good 4-item play for him. Agina, the ledge, 2 in the desert.
And this is another good check. It's not super ideal because in a perfectly ideal situation, you'd be able to get the flute and the and Soma and a couple of other things and just make Mire and Desert a 2-for-1 deal. But as it is, it's a dungeon you can clear. You can definitely full clear it and go ahead and knock it out.
I had forgotten that Paradox had not seen that rupee on the pyramid ledge before going into pod. So him leaving the way he did and walking out does make a bit more sense when he's got 2 items he can get that way. But still needs to get to Eastern Palace to grab his hammer at some point.
Yeah, the good news is I don't really think Paradox has anything else at this point that's going to be like, hey, go there. We don't really have anything that's worthwhile doing at this point over the eastern area, I don't think. So I feel like that's going to be the next play regardless of what our Catfish friend gives us here.
Yeah, and I think chat's raising a good point, actually, that Paradox's routing suggests he's playing under the assumption that the seed wanted to require these runners to kill Aghanim just to get to the pyramid Catfish pod area. So he was going hard on those checks, assuming hammer flippers would either be there or be locked behind there.
Right.
And we see the save and quit. Yeah. These immediate boot checks are singular, I guess, if he's doing bonk rocks first. But that's an extension of it.
That is kind of interesting. I feel like you do King's Tomb first in this area, but I mean, maybe he'll go back for it? I don't know.
Yeah, back to King's Tomb. Because I don't think there's anything actually for him in the village area at this point. So either way makes sense. If he's just going to save and quit out of King's Tomb.
Yeah, and that is fair. With King's Tomb being the longer walk back, it kind of makes sense. Even with boots, you're technically saving a little bit of time because the King's Tomb walk back is a bit longer.
And chat's saying that he could take the vanilla no major glitches speedrun route to Eastern. I thought saving and quitting was faster, but I'm not sure. He's doing it. So we don't see these screens that often in Rando, but people who play vanilla, they're there.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like with boots, it's probably pretty close to being the same amount of time. So yeah, not a bad call. And then he's going to pull his hammer out of here relatively quickly. Book first, and then hammer out of Eastern, and is probably not going to be super happy about that.
Yeah. I'm expecting he probably won't come back to finish pod until he's in go mode. as long as he feels like he can get away with it. Especially us knowing that there's nothing on Helbasaur, he will be able to get away with it. So I think he'll try to do that, just at the very least so he can come back with Flute later.
And yeah, that makes sense. There is one item sitting on Helma, but obviously it's nothing. I want to say it was like 50 rupees. So unless Paradox gets paranoid about the potential check here, we're not going to be seeing that.
Meanwhile, Qirn side here, Deadland Mola's second crystal. Haven't seen anything of note in the desert area so far.
Third crystal, actually, because he's taken out Helma as well.
Yes, he did. That's my error.
And yeah, so at this point, we need some flippers. We need mirrors. We basically need the entire swamp package. We also need access to Mire, please and thank you. But Thieves Town and Tower of Hera, definitely two places that we could go clear. Tower of Hera, kind of an arduous climb since we don't have the mirror. But that is access to the Hera area, Ether Tablet, and Spike Cave, which I believe is logical access because we do, in fact, have Cane of Burna as well. So that is an option. I feel like Thieves Town's obviously going to be done first, but then we might see a mountain SMQ from Qirn after that.
Yep. The Hera area is a 4-item play on its own. It's a 6-item play for Qirn when you consider it's the second 5/6 crystal, which gives him the Pyramid Fairy. But that's a bit further off and disjointed.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a situation where you don't really want to have to check that if you don't have to. That is a bit of a walk for 2 items, and you're going to check it if you have access and it's your best case scenario, but it's not super ideal to be lugging that big bomb around.
Yeah, it's a popular check immediately after Swamp Palace, but we can't even get in the front door of that dungeon. Or I guess we could, we just couldn't get anywhere inside it.
Yeah, the more interesting thing in my eyes right now is that we are a Cane of Samaria away from being able to do some stuff in Turtle Rock, which is everyone's favorite place to go under pendant circumstances. Assuming, again, that, yeah, because Turtle Rock is Bombos, and Qirn's going to be grabbing that in just a minute here, so...
Actually, that Bombos was in Skull Woods, right?
I thought it was Chest Game, but...
Oh, it may have been.
You might be right.
I think it was Chess Game. I think you're right, now that you're saying it.
It's in the area. Hey,
yeah,
I got one!
Yep. So yeah, he has that. I was thinking it's possible he skipped Skull Woods, as we did see him do. But nothing in there. Maybe a bottle was in there, but it doesn't really matter much.
I don't know. We might get Skull Woods, just given that we're kind of running low on checks. Although on the flip side, we do have the mitts and the boots. So it's pretty quick to get back here. Skull Woods basically being overworld checks with this item loadout. Not as overworld if you have the flute, but either way, it's a pretty quick trip back here.
Yeah, with mitts and hammer in hand, I would expect a smith pickup and hammer pegs from Qirn after this. And then maybe purple chest if neither of those pay. Well, Skullwood's into purple chest probably. That's about the most convenient way to do it right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see those first 2 checks and then maybe just heading up the mountain for Hera. I don't know. I hate doing purple chests without mirror, so, and without flute. So I don't know if we'll see that double saving quit for the sake of for purple chest, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's a more viable option than it perhaps otherwise would be, just because of those Skull Woods checks on the table right next to the portal. And we do see Paraducks gonna go finish pod here. I guess walking from Eastern to the portal, it's a little slower than fluting to the portal would be, but not massively so. And I don't know, Helmasaur could have the flute from Paraduck's point of view.
Yeah, there's a couple things that Helmasaur could have that would be aggravating and give some sort of progression-ish or push you in a particular direction. We know it's just $50, but obviously Paradox is unaware of that.
Yeah, and besides that, from our perspective as viewers, it is a 5/6 crystal when it is looking increasingly likely that we may need to pay that Qirn area visit at some point.
Yeah, when the items that we need continue to stay the same, but the checks keep dwindling, we kind of run into a situation where it's like, oh, okay, it's kind of looking like we're going to be heading in that direction sooner rather than later.
Yeah, because just to recap for chat a little bit, the only locations on the mountain we have not seen are the inside Turtle Rock, which we can't get anywhere without the cane, and then the Hera area checks, Tower itself, Ether Tablet, and Spike Cave. And then beyond that, we've got the Smith chain, 3 checks, Smith, Purple Chest, Hammer Pegs. And I think collectively we have seen the rest between the 2 runners.
Yeah, I'm running through things in my head, and I'm pretty sure you got that right, because I want to say Paradox got both items out of Skull Woods.
Actually, no, he didn't. I remember that now. Chat was talking about that earlier, too, how he did only get 1 item and the other was in the back.
Okay, so there's 1 item between the middle portion and the back then.
There's also no items worth mentioning in the Thieves Town Big Chest, so Paradox fine there.
Yeah, so that's nice. It's not a situation where it's super unfortunate. The pod routing being unideal, Paradox having to come back. But other than that, the hammer not hurting any worse. Which is nice. Unless Paradox gets really, really, really squicky about this Thieves Town item and comes back. I don't see that happening. I really don't, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, like at this point, the most the hammer really means to Paradox, I think, is some lost efficiency around his inability to do hammer pegs when he was in the village area. I think that's really about it.
Yeah, but he also didn't do any of the Smith chain there, so it's not a whole lot of an issue, because that's just one of those things where you could just come back and do it.
Yeah. And what's your opinion on sword beams in the like when you have sword beams in the turtle room? What's your opinion on using your tempered sword versus your hammer?
If I have sword beams in the turtle room, my opinion is that I get hit by that first turtle before the turtle room and then use my tempered sword. That's generally how I do things. Sword beams are completely and totally awful, especially in that room. I'd rather just take the half heart or full heart of damage, depending on what mail I have, and then just go ahead and use my tempered sword as needed. Hammer's okay, but with its ability to flip things around, if I make a mistake, then all of a sudden I've got 4 angry turtles that are flipped over and coming after me, and I prefer not to deal with that. So I generally go for intentional damage in the room before, and then just go ahead and whip out the red lightsaber.
Yeah. Compare that. Paradox stuck with the hammer in that room entirely. Had full health, didn't want to get trolled by sword beams.
Yeah, which is perfectly fine if you're more than adequate with using it. I just prefer not to if I have a sword that does equal damage.
Yeah, it wasn't the best of times for him, but he did make up for it, showing off tempered sword being very good in the Helmasaur fight in general. The second phase of it specifically. But was able to clear that out faster, safer than Qirn with his Master Sword and arrows, at least.
So Qirn doing hammer pegs and then doing Stumpy, and is now going back for the Smith digging game first, I guess, and then is going back for the Smith.
Yeah, because remember, he did the Hype Cave into Pod Route earlier, so all of these were isolated checks for him.
That's fair.
Meanwhile, Paraduck's on the mountain. I like this.
Yeah, this is definitely interesting, especially because Qirn might not do this immediately afterwards, so new information is always fun for us.
Yeah, like from Paraduck's perspective, he's picking this over Desert, which is the same number of items once you factor in Ether Tablet and Spike Cave. And he's choosing this over the Smith Chain, which he has the powder now, so that's also a 4-check area. So, I'm not going to say it comes out in the wash, because Hera is a 5/6 crystal, Desert's only a regular crystal, Smith Chain has no crystal at all. So, yeah, this makes sense, and I like it. It shows, I think, he's got Pyramid Fairy on the brain.
And that's an interesting call, because like on one end it is the same amount of checks like you had mentioned, and really this being 5/6 does give an advantage, but it is also kind of out of the way, and I think this may be a situation of Paradox feeling a little bit behind with that late hammer grab, maybe thinking that Qirn grabbed it, and then being like, well, if I had to guess, Qirn's probably going to do Desert before Hera, so let's go ahead and knock out Hera, and if it gives me something cool, then I may have gained some time back.
Yeah, we're hoping that Moldworm drops are something cool here, because if he doesn't, it's probably off to the basement with us, because that's where the second item's going to be. We've only seen one. We've seen both map and compass.
Yeah, and that's a situation where if there's nothing in this area and Qirn doesn't come back to it, this could very well be a go mode Hera, and that saves like a minute over Paraducks here, at least just with the basement check. So
yeah, it does assume that Paraducks doesn't skip the basement. I would be a little surprised if he did when he came up here aggressively, though.
Yeah, that would also surprise me. I'm going to assume that we're going to be seeing this second item, whether it's here, which it is. Welcome to Fetch Quest number 3. Or even if it was in the basement, I feel like we're heading down there at this point.
Yep. But good news, no basement, just the fetch quest. Ideally would like to wait for Flute to turn that in, but a save and quit to Link's house and a fake flipper makes it very easy. Could save and quit out of Spike Cave, do that immediately. And I kind of expect that at this point. If you came up here aggressively, you may as well aggressively follow the items you got up here.
Exactly, you absolutely take that chain and you follow it. So we're going to see a Spike Cave here, and then I mean, whether we see Pyramid Fairy first or Mirror first, I expect to see them both in rapid succession unless one of them has like absolute progression telling us to go somewhere else, which I can't even think of it at this point. Something that would just be like, no, go this way. I guess we could see a Samaria that could then take Paradox into Turtle Rock, but that's just kind of an icky play. I feel like you probably do Desert first in that situation.
Yeah, I think you choose your crystal over your pendant there. Paradox, he's going for the mushroom turn in here. Not doing it from Link's house, so has a couple extra screens here that he's got to run through. Nice use of the hook shot there, though.
Yeah, that's one of the lesser-known ones. Pretty much everyone who plays Rando knows that hookshot goes from right to left there, but what you don't know is that in the light world, it goes from left to right, and that can be extraordinarily useful. Qirn going to go ahead and check these items, or maybe not check that item. That was kind of interesting, especially because I think that was a bottle. Whoa!
There's the goods. That's the goods.
I mean, it's something, but that's not a whole lot of checks. What are we getting? 2 checks?
True, it is only 2 checks. Well, potentially up to 4 immediately if you want to go into Mire without the cane.
Oh, that's fair. That's always such a terrible thing. But, I mean, honestly, it has progression a lot. I feel like there's a lot of times the answer is go into Mire without the cane and either find the cane in there or find something else in there. I feel like that happens more frequently. As we do see the second item of Qirn just being $20, no big deal there. I do feel like we find that more commonly than the 2-item check in Mire should be. But, you know.
Yeah, the Paraducks taking the flute, immediately activating it. Even if he doesn't go directly to Mire with it, I still expect him to flute to 6. Or just not flute anywhere. Oh, magic powder turn in, right. He has not done this yet.
Yeah, and without the mirror, you can't really tie this in super nicely unless you're setting up a save and quit to go ahead and knock out the Smith chain. So I don't dislike this at all.
And chat's pointing out Qirn was in the pinball room, did not get the bottle in the pinball room, got the other item, left Skull Woods.
Yeah, I feel like in Qirn's mind there is an item in the back of Skull Woods and he's just not going to sweat it. But I don't know, skipping that chest is kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
You know what? He may have thought for a moment that because old logic does require there to be a small key there, and if you're someone who plays a whole lot of Crossworld or similarly Entrancer, it uses the old logic. So there, if you play any sort of entrance shuffle seed, there's going to be a small key in that chest. Maybe that's what he was thinking.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's a stretch. I feel like it's kind of weird that Qirn went up there, picked up all the pots, and then stared at the chest and kept moving. Like that's really unusual. You know what I mean? And that's
Yes.
The only thing I can think of where he went over there. He's like, "Oh crap, this is a small key, idiot," and just turned around because he looked at his key count, realized he didn't need another key, and kept moving. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. It could very well be something else. I just can't think of it at this point.
Yeah, we'll see if we can talk to him about that later. It's interesting. But he is making the mountain play now. Doesn't have much else to do after that purple chest was junk. But so he's gonna do that. He's gonna get his mushroom, presumably turn that in for a flute in fairly short order. Paraduck's gonna get nothing out of the desert here. At least check Meyer's shed afterwards. And if there's nothing in Meyer's shed, then we're looking at one, maybe two items inside of Meyer. We're looking at Pyramid Fairy, and not really anything else.
Yep, we have. This seed has most definitely slowed down and narrowed down. Go ahead.
There is Pendant. Well, I say Pendantized Palace, but that's not logical without flippers. Game won't expect us to do that for the next item.
Yeah, and I feel like unless you're trying to make a play of, hey, Meyer's going to have the flippers, or Pyramid Fairy's going to have the flippers, and then I'm just going to go ahead and bypass that and grab the cane out of Ice Palace, hopefully, so I don't have to double dip Meyer. That's a very, very sketchy move, and I don't feel like either of our runners are going to be doing that at this point.
Yeah, like I called the Hera play earlier from Paraducks a bit aggressive. That would I don't have a word for how aggressive fake flippering into ice would be at this point, with Swamp being a crystal and us having so few locations left.
I do. I feel like that's a do or die move right there. I feel like you only do that if you feel behind and feel like you have to make a play that's either going to bury your own game or bring you back. I feel like that's only in a do or die situation.
Speaking of things dying, though, how about that Tempered Sword versus Molus?
Man, Tempered Sword makes everything better. Whoa, okay.
Yeah, Qirn almost got rejected by the Moldorm there. But
yeah, Moldorm almost hit a home run over the left field fence, but Qirn just barely staying in bounds and then finishing off.
And there's that mushroom. Paraduck's gonna check Agina. Had not already done that. Wonder if he'll save and quit here or just walk back out and flute, presumably to 6. If he saves and quits, I might expect Pyramid Fairy, especially if he goes to Link's house.
Pyramid Fairy check wouldn't surprise me, because it's a situation with Qirn. Oh, you just never checked that chest. Okay, never mind. I was very confused for a second there. Anyways, okay, so we are probably going to get... That's kind of interesting. I think I personally would have done the Pyramid Fairy first, because then I know that I have to go into Meyer. Whereas, like, right now, after checking Meyer's shed, if there's nothing in here, I'm still going to be looking at Pyramid Fairy like, maybe I don't have to go into Mire. But
yeah, the chances that there's an item here, they're not quite 50-50 just on raw counts, but they're not that far from it.
yeah, it's about like 35 to 40% at this point, because we're really cutting it close. And of course, there's nothing there, but Paraducks is 13th heart, and with Paraducks, well, we don't know the medallion here, so this might not even be an option, unless Paraducks did see it. I didn't see it, so yeah, Bombos as well. Alrighty, let's have fun.
Okay, so gambling on Vanilla Cane, let's go. Qirn just showing off bomb jump into that screen transition to get some fake flippers, gonna turn in his mushroom.
All right, Qirn. The funny thing is that timing is eerily similar to the actual Qirn jump, so that just kind of made me giggle inside.
It is the exact same thing, just on a different screen. Also, a fair bit less precise with where you start, but the timing is exactly the same.
All right, so flute activation first, or is Qirn going to go ahead and knock out Pyramid Fairy? Well, that answers it.
Yep, starting at Sank means he's going to the village, going to activate that flute. I would expect him to go to Mire first, even on top of that.
I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy then, but I feel like Pyramid Fairy is the play, because if that has something, then you're not wasting your time in Mire with this double dip.
No, but if it is in Mire, and there is nothing at Pyramid Fairy, then you just walk the red bomb all the way there for nothing.
Sure, but that's way less of a time loss.
Yeah, like, it's a racing mentality sort of thing, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, and it's very much one thing for me to sit here in the booth as someone who doesn't play this super competitively and be like, well, this is what I would do, but I mean, I'm not under the pressure these guys are on. I'm not playing against Paraducks or Qirn, people who are really, really good at this game, feeling like you have to make plays in order to win and go and move on. So, whew, just barely enough magic there.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of that, I do want to remind people as we see that small key here, that does mean that the big key will be in the vanilla cutscene chest. But I do want to remind people who may have showed up to this match late, this is a loser's bracket round 2. This is a last chance match. This is one best of 3. Win go to brackets, lose go home. And this is a rematch of the first round of this group stage as well that Qirn took 2-0. So
yeah, we say that, and in the groups, Qirn is the 1 seed and Paraducks is the 4 seed. But
we've seen throughout this tournament that seeds do not matter very much.
Basically, the parity between the low and high seeded runners is such that, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, honestly. And if you're going to go ahead and pick your brackets by seed, you're going to be really disappointed.
Yes, exactly.
And right now, Qirn making the exact same play. So in terms of a straight line, Paraducks is slightly ahead since they both have the same stuff to check afterwards, and they're both doing the same thing now.
Yep, like I think the only checks that Qirn has over Paraducks here is that Smith chain.
Yes, absolutely. But I feel like Paraducks is probably going to be checking Pyramid Fairy before that, so I feel like that's not relevant right now. Might become relevant later if Paraducks decides to go back and do Smith chain, but until that happens, it is a plus for Paraducks. Oh boy, hello flippers.
Yeah, we had a talk about this earlier. Ice Palace just doesn't exist. I refuse to acknowledge it.
Well, Reg, we don't have the mirror yet, so unless there's something sitting here in the Pyramid Fairy, buddy, it's gonna have to exist.
Yeah, good news is we are seeing that Pyramid Fairy first, so we are going to learn before we go into Pendant Ice. Pendant Ice with no cane means no icebreaker, means no fun for the entire midsection of that dungeon.
I mean, honestly, you could decide to get kind of gutsy and just not do the bomb jump either. Just be like, heck it, I'm not fighting Cold Stare.
Yeah, that I've seen worse gambles. But even if you skip the bomb jump, you've still got to do the entire midsection of that dungeon, which has no checks in it.
Oh yeah, no, it's terrible no matter what. Best case scenario, we pull something out of here and just don't have to go in Ice Palace. I'm not even picky about what we pull out of here.
Yeah, although I was not fully counting. Did we see a second item in... I don't think we did based on Qirn's key count. I think Vitreous has the second one.
Don't think so either. Pretty sure Vidi has our second item.
So if you pull Kane here, you absolutely go back to Meyer first, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because the hope then is that Vidi has our mirror, and then we just don't have to worry about things anymore.
Yep.
Uh-oh. On the list of things you didn't want to see, although that doesn't come into play unless we run across a Cane of Samaria, and even then we have other stuff we can do, but I'm not happy about that ice rod, personally.
Yeah, honestly, unless Mirror shows up in ice, if Mirror shows up in ice, then that's one thing. But if Kane shows up in ice with no mirror, then actually having that ice rod suddenly becomes really nice because that's not in the back of your mind while you're dipping Turtle Rock.
I mean, that's fair, but I don't know. It would be nice not to have to dip it, okay?
It would, yes. But if you're going to do it regardless, you may as well do it with the ice rod rather than without it.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
Looks like Qirn is doing the exact same thing, though, so if the seed comes to that, neither runner will be missing the ice rod. Which is really silly to say when Turtle Rock is a pendant, but that's the point we're at this seed.
I mean, it's silly, but is it really all that unexpected?
And I don't know about unexpected, but not hoped for, maybe?
That's fair. I'll give that one to you.
Here we are. No icebreaker means that we've got to bomb this floor. That bomb does hit the crystal switch because it's pretty precisely placed in the corner. And then you've got to kill these guys. Like, Ice Palace is the only dungeon in the game with those Salthos Knights, right?
I want to say yes. Well, other than GT. So if you're not including GT, yes.
Okay. Because, yeah, like, people who just started watching this game since the advent of Icebreaker, honestly, how many times would they have seen those enemies?
Unless you're watching Randomizer, not very often. I feel like we need to find a clip of someone's first reaction to a Stelphos just coming out of nowhere and be like, what the heck is that?
Actually, yeah, chat's right. There are a couple in the 8-shaped room. You're just not required to kill them. And killing them is honestly not very intuitive if you've never played this game before, so that's still something.
Oh no, it's definitely weird. Like, you have to hit them and then hit them once to knock them down and then smack them with a bomb? I feel like in the vanilla game, the tile up in that northern part of the room does tell you that.
Who reads hint tiles?
Is that like who asks for directions?
Yes. Who does that?
I did because, I mean, the first time I played it, I hit him with a fire rod and a hook shot and a bow and hit him with a sword like 4 times. And
Paraducks forgot to pull the little tongue on the statue. That's your icebreaker muscle memory right there. Good that he has it. Unfortunate today. And here we are. Qirn going to be in Ice Palace very shortly here. So yeah, both runners in pretty much the same place, and with Qirn having that catfish check under his belt, pretty sure he's got every check that Paraducks has outside of Ice Palace, plus the Smith chain. And that's it. But he is behind on the route because of that, so that is something to note.
Yeah, but honestly, at this point, I'm not even worried about it. We still have to find progression, and goodness knows where that's going to be. Like, Ice Palace has to give us something, and it still hasn't, so are we going to be looking at a cold stare? I mean...
We're looking at iced tea and the big chest first.
That's fair. Hey!
Turtle Rock, boys.
No, I don't wanna. Meyer first.
Okay, yes, that is actually, yes, Meyer first.
Give me that misery mirror, baby. I'm sorry, I've had that pun lined up for like a year and a half, and I just wanted to say it.
Yeah, Paraducks was going to bomb jump, then he realized he didn't have to, so he just took the fall.
And of course, Cold Stare as our last item.
Yep. So we're going to kill Cold Stare here. Then we're going to kill Vitreous. Then we're going to kill things in Turtle Rock until we find the mirror. Then if it's not there, we're going to kill Mocula.
We might turn in Green Pendant first, honestly.
Yeah. That's a lot faster than killing Mocula for a ped full animation. So let's see how good Paraducks is at keeping Cold Stare in a corner.
I mean, you got Tempered Sword and still half your magic bar, so I feel like even if this goes south, it's not going to go too far south. Oh, why did I open my mouth? Paraducks, I'm sorry. Paraducks, I'm sorry.
Yeah. That Fire Rod has a really funky habit of shooting not in the direction Link's facing when you try to move and shoot.
Alright, there we go. We're good. No harm, no foul. And Boomerang. Alright, so if Qirn nopes out of here right after this, which he did not, okay, so that would have been an interesting play. But did not see it, so Qirn's just going to go ahead and keep following.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's particularly justifiable to nope out at this point when the cane opens up Pendant Turtle Rock and a one item in Mire. Like, when that's all it does for you, I don't really think this is justifiable.
I mean, that's fair, but then on the flip side, the only stuff that you're not going to be able to check because of this is the one item on Cold Stare and the ped. So you could, like, I don't know. I feel like it's not super ideal, but you could sit there and be like, well, there's 2 items, 3 from the way that Qirn played this. But there's 3 items. I've got access to 8 more. I don't know. I feel like it's not a great gamble, but it's an option. But yeah, if you don't want to see Turtle Rock, you're hoping that Vidi is a very nice person and gives us the mirror. If you do want to see Turtle Rock, then you're hoping that Vidi's a very nice person and gives us anything else.
Yep. He is giving us something guaranteed. How do you feel about green 20s? I haven't seen enough of those this seed.
You know, we really haven't seen that many, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think I've seen like 2, maybe? And we're really just now getting to the point where we're going to see a bunch of health. But there's also the males and that silver arrow check somewhere around. So I feel like we're not going to be seeing a whole lot of 20s until GT, and even only then if the GT big key is hiding somewhere silly. But we really haven't seen as many as we normally do. Usually at this point we're up to at least 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's kind of funny overall just because Paraducks was on 12 hearts like 40 minutes ago, it feels like. And now he's still only on 13. I think the last heart we haven't seen yet is going to be the Sank heart too. I don't think we've seen that.
Right, and the interesting thing about that is that there's only 1 Sank heart. So we're not going to be seeing a situation where the next full heart counts, and then everything's big 20 after that. Paradox is going to have to find that Sank heart, and as is Qirn. You know, not that they're going to be too worried about it. When 14's your max, you're going to be okay with 13 hearts.
Yeah, especially when Paraducks is going to come right up in here. He's going to do some nice little damage boosting strats to get his spins off, kill all these small eyes real nicely.
We actually, interestingly enough, had the equipment to go ahead and do some dash strats if Paradox preferred that, but doing really clean NMG stuff, so that works out too.
When you're using Berna, the NMG stuff is a lot faster just because of the lag, and there's a green 20.
Reg, what did I tell you about wishing poor things on these runners and having them be true?
Turtle Rock, though.
And he just completely and totally changes. So Reg has this terrible habit of calling something unideal and having it come true. So just so you guys are aware, just be ready.
Green 20 was by far the most likely thing for Vitreous to drop, though.
It was not. It could have been like a red 20. There are more of those in the freaking stock.
How many of them have we seen, though?
Not very many, I don't think. I mean, maybe like 10. There's still, I want to say 18 left.
Yeah, still a lot of green 20s left, too, though.
Yeah, it's fair. I just like giving you a hard time, especially because you were exactly correct.
Yeah, we do have chat talking about something that I think is worth bringing up, though. Paradox does still have the Smith chain left. If we clear out Turtle Rock and it is entirely empty, does he do that before killing Mothula?
I mean, honestly, at this point, I feel like... I don't know. I feel like I just walk back and go check Ped. I mean, you're so close. So I feel like you go back there, you kill Moth, you check Ped, and you're just done with it. And if it's... Because, like, it's one of those things, you know, where you say you take a gamble, and if it's there, oh well. Well, Paradox skipped Smith Chain. And at this point, you kind of have to assume that most likely your opponent has checked it by now. So if that's the answer, you're already done. Especially because we're in a situation where we need one item, just one item. Please give me the mirror, and then I can go home. So I feel like Paradox is thinking, if it was on Smith Chain, either Qirn has checked it, and I'm about to see a dot done, or Qirn hasn't checked it, and we're probably going to be in the same boat, so whatever, I'll do it last. I obviously don't know if that's what's going through Paradox's head, but we'll find out if Turtle Rock has nothing, which honestly at this point isn't super likely, because we know Smith Chain has nothing. So if Turtle Rock is empty, we are literally looking at a green pendant and Ped. And that second item in Skull Woods. Like, we have 3 items.
We've seen the second item in Skull Woods.
Right.
Qirn got it.
Yep, that's right. Never mind.
Although actually, Paradox only saw one. Qirn saw the other in a really interesting turn of events.
Right, but from both of their perspectives, there's one item in Skull Woods. Unless Qirn thinks he pulled 2. I have no idea. We still have yet to ask that question.
Yeah, and then just something else to think about. With the mirror being the item we're missing, you can't just kill Mothula mirror to Ped and pull it.
Oh,
do you check before going to the Dark World? I think you probably do.
I mean, maybe. I guess the first question is, do you turn in that green pendant before you go to the Village of Outcasts area?
That's an absolute yes.
Okay, so if you're doing that first, then basically your checks are only Mothula, one item in Skull Woods, which Paradox is probably going to get before you get to Mothula because it's in that middle room. And I don't see Paradox skipping that at this point. Although I guess he might. So I feel like you're sitting on 3 items you know you're missing and Smith Chain. So I'm going to assume for sake of ease that Paradox skips Smith Chain. The Paradox is just like, if it's Smith Chain, oh well, GG, and that's it. So I feel like at that point you take out Moth, because, I mean, if you pull the other item from Skull Woods and you've already pulled the green pendant, I mean, all you're looking at is Ped if you've decided to skip Smith, right? So it doesn't matter if you check it or not. Like, checking it and going back is just extra time at that point, unless you're trying to salvage the fact that you skip Smith Chain, in which case you might as well just check Smith Chain.
Yeah, I think that's pretty well broken down. Makes a lot of sense there. It gets into the racing mentality sort of thing. You do your skip, you commit to it, and you go. But we've seen, I think, just one item in Turtle Rock, actually. Just that green 20 in Lava Chest.
Yeah, TR is super late with checks. We've got, we're halfway through the dungeon, and we still have pretty much everything. Oh, yeah, I was like, why is he skipping hammer pegs like an absolute numpty? Because you can't check hammer pegs. You don't have the mirror.
Hammer pegs is on the other side of the world.
Shush. Okay, it requires a hammer. Leave me alone, Reg.
That it actually does, which is kind of obnoxious if you play silly modes.
It is a room that has hammer pegs. I am technically correct.
The worst kind of correct.
I thought it was the best kind of correct. Come on.
I have changed my mind.
You always do that to me. Where it's like it's the best kind of something until Hammer does it, and it's like, no, that was terrible. Take it back.
Maybe. For now, though, we've got a laser bridge in front of us. We have not seen a map or a compass yet. So 3 items to be found, and laser bridge plus Trinex to actually find them. Unless the mirror shows up, we're obviously killing Trinex regardless for that green pendant. Even if he's dropping a compass here, but gotta do it.
Yep, because at this point, unless you are going to nope out and go grab that other item in Skull Woods, you're going to need this green pendant to do anything else. So at the very least, we're going to go kill a Trinex.
Oh, chat's reminding me, compass was in the big chest. There was a small key that was missing, because I can't look at Paradux's key count, apparently. I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But yeah, it's Trinex gonna drop an item, gonna drop a green pendant. So that's 2 chances at mirror before we say we're killing them off.
Oh man, this seed is just, it's something, isn't it, man? This seed is something.
Now, aren't you glad these guys checked Pyramid Fairy before coming here?
I mean, I feel like you check Pyramid Fairy before you spend 7 minutes in Pendant Turtle Rock.
Yeah, they also checked it before going into Pendant Ice, which had the cane.
I don't blame them for that either. You don't want to go into ice without the cane.
But it had nothing until the ice rod turned out to be important.
Uh-huh. So it did have something, so we're good. Uh-oh.
Triple boom. Sahasrara next. Let's go.
At least we have the flute. We're still going to have to S&Q, though, because no mirror.
Yeah, good news means that no mirror means it can't be a Mimic Cave. So leaving that behind just costs us absolutely nothing.
That's fair. And there is something nice about not having to, having mirror as your go mode, because you don't have to worry about several kind of out-of-the-way silly checks, like Graveyard Ledge and Checkerboard and K45 and Bombo's tablet, but having to check everything else makes that a somewhat bittersweet situation.
Yeah, that combined with the routing inefficiency makes me really sad, because Mirror is probably the best item in the game for just sheer routing efficiency relative to the number of checks it opens up.
Absolutely, unless you're going to add in something like the boots or the flute. And there it is! Alrighty! Green pendant. So it wasn't a ped seed, but it might as well have been.
Yep. Paraducks in go mode at an hour 26 and change. We're not killing them off. Feels pretty good.
I feel like being in go mode in 127, there is nothing that feels good at this point. I don't care what you got to skip.
I mean, seeing the pet is dead emotes in chat makes me feel pretty good.
Oh, don't lie. You were hoping for a ped.
I like seeing dead moths.
Of course you do. All right, so we're going to get everyone's favorite swamp A go mode swamp. There's nothing in here we could really possibly want whatsoever, since the silvers are not going to be found, and we could get one more heart, but we're not too worried about that. No mail upgrades to worry about. No shield upgrades to worry about. We've already got 2 blue goos, so we're not worried about that last bottle. Yeah, not too worried about the cape either. So yeah, we're not going to be checking anything. Just get to fly through this thing, and then we get to play a little game.
Yeah, we might see the 2 chests in the flooded room checked, just because they are there. We could hypothetically pull a half magic. That would be a little bit convenient.
That's a fair point. I mean, honestly, even a cape could be convenient for certain wall-grabbing shenanigans during the Ganon fight itself, if needed.
Yeah, like, it's not literally nothing, but like we see Paraducks skip 1 chest already because it wasn't in the way enough. So I would expect to see the flooded room and the waterfall room at most.
Yeah, exactly. At most, we're going to get 3 checks here. And I wouldn't even be surprised to see none, honestly. Because at this point, you've played so much and cleared so much that you just want to be done. Like, even if you feel like you're ahead, you just want to be done. I'm not going to check anything. Let's just go.
Yeah, and when you've cleared basically the entire game, except for 4 checks, yeah, it's pretty easy to fall into that mindset. Good news, Qirn here is going to turn in his green pendant before he goes kills him off as well, so he's going to have his mirror. He's also going to be in go mode, but he's still looking at roughly 3 minutes behind.
As we do get a double skip there, so honestly it wouldn't surprise me to see Paraducks just run right by that waterfall chest. Yep, bye!
Yeah, and that 3 chest was the upper limit for what I expected to see checked. You can obviously do swamp without checking a single one.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have been surprised to see waterfall, but I honestly didn't expect to see the flooded chest at that point. The flooded chest, you just go.
Yeah. On the other hand, since he did dive her down, they were literally right there.
That's fair. Maybe we'll see him from Qirn, and then we can decide on whether or not he could have potentially saved a little bit of time from running across a half magic or gate.
Yeah, hookshot started going a little astray there, but couldn't get it in before the spin cycle started, so had to wait for that to finish even with no puffs. That feels a little bad.
Yeah, it's one of those weird timing situations where if you can't get it right, you gotta wait for the extra. And there's so we did find the sank heart. So we must have found it with full health, because I didn't see either of our runners go up.
Yeah, and they found that last heart piece for 14 hearts. So I think Qirn is going to cap out as well here.
Wouldn't surprise me. All right, so 22 locations. One of them has the big key. I know what your favorite is, but I'm not sure that most of chat does. Why don't you go ahead and make us aware of that favorite number of yours?
First, I'll talk about Ganon's Tower basement. You see a lot of checks in there. Like you said, there's 22 of them. Chat loves guessing what it is, what number check has that big key. That's the only thing really left we have to find at this point. The big key is going to be in one of them. And yeah, they get to guess where it is. There is no actual game for guessing it anymore. That is unfortunately gone. It may return in the future. But they can still put numbers in chat anyways.
All right, so that being said, what is your guess, good sir?
Number 10 is always a pretty good number.
That's fair. We get to see some potential. It's deep enough in that we get to see the full consequence of differences in GT routing, and I swear there's like half a dozen valid ways to route GT at this point. But on the flip side, it's not so long that we're going to be seeing all of GT, so not a bad guess.
Yeah, routing GT is...
Hello, half magic.
Okay, that's probably not going to actually save Qirn any time, unless things go south. That is a convenience.
It is. At most, I feel like it saves picking up one of those full magic pots, or maybe makes the gauntlet a little bit faster with being able to use Fire Rod a little less judiciously.
Yeah, I think the Gauntlet is actually the biggest deal here, especially since we have the lamp in hand.
Alrighty, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and be nice. Our runners have done through enough. Let's just give me like a 4. And here come those.
Yeah, I can't get Hammer. I can't give you a 4. What about a 2?
I mean, I guess a 2 works. I feel like Paraducks is super happy to find that. We are going to go ahead and grab a key here, just in case there isn't a key up towards the top of the tower, because you do need 1 key to start. You can kill a Helmethor for the 2nd key, as Qirn does not actually get filled up, so still short a heart piece or 2 or 3 maybe. But yeah, now we're going to be running across the gauntlet for Paraducks with enough of a lead to be kind of comfy, but not super comfy.
Yep. To quote somebody, this is why you play the game.
You win to play the game, or you play the game to win? Is that the quote we're going for?
No. You gotta actually play the game before you can win the game.
That's fair.
Yeah, these Mimics and the Beamos not giving Paraducks a good time, but he is through them here on 8 hearts. So we'll see how the Gauntlet does for him. He's got the powder, so if he can get to the top, he is totally fine.
I also want to say that both of our runners have, well, Qirn has 1 blue goo because he never picked up the 2nd one, but I'm pretty sure Paraducks is still sitting on 2 blue goos. So I think we're like, unless Paraducks gets blindsided by something or decides to be silly and not use a goo when he should, I feel like at this point our runners are okay.
Yeah, Paraducks especially has 2. Qirn only has 1 because he didn't get the one out of Skullwoods.
Which we have to keep bringing up to make sure that we ask.
Yeah.
Nice grab there. That RNG for those Zazaks was not helpful, but Paraducks being able to sneak past the Beamos and get both of them in one shot, which that room went way better than it could have.
And those last 2 rooms were really, really good as well. That second, the last one in particular, had very favorable RNG. He was able to just dash through one, slash the other. And then the Sophos cooperated in the last room. Landmo's not cooperating so much, though.
Landmo 2 never cooperates, let's just be honest.
Yeah, I got 2 words for you. Short hop.
Yeah, pretty much, and the hop's done before you can even say that, so... Just one of those situations where you're really just not going to be getting a favorable 1 cycle, but that's okay.
Yeah, you can 1 cycle those Wizzrobes instead, though.
That's fair. Those rooms are relatively easy to do. Both of them, the 2nd room obviously requiring a little more timing, but some of the most satisfying rooms in the game, as far as I'm concerned, regardless of their relative ease. Just feels so good to be able to take those out and then just walk through the door like you own it.
So, what's your opinion on the difficulty of that room when you don't have the Cane of Samaria?
Honestly, it depends on what you do have. If you have something like a bow, then you can usually if I have a bow, I'll just kind of settle for a 2 cycle and just knock out 2 the first cycle, wait for the last one, and then either slash him or hit him with another bow shot, depending on how I'm feeling. But you can be in a situation where you don't really have any ranged help, and that room does get a bit more annoying, especially because most runners aren't super familiar with the entirety of the tile room. Okay, Qirn, dashing through the spikes like that. And just doing it again.
Actually, that's something to note. Paraducks left the crystal switch in that room. He left it with the orange pegs up, so he wasn't able to powder the bunny beam and get the 2nd fairy there, so he is missing a heart and a half. Not likely to be anything, but still worth noting.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, with those goos in hand, I feel like it's not going to make a difference as long as Paraducks remembers that he has goos and decides that 3 seconds is worth not dying. But yeah, it is an option. Nice double there. That's not a super friendly situation. This one isn't either. almost pulling a double there. That second one being a little off. This one lines up much more nicely, though. Thanks for the blue balls, jerk.
Yeah, the blue ball actually means that he couldn't get a double there, but this one should be. Yep, there you go.
Wow!
4 cycles, solid.
Qirn cleaning up Landmo 2 really nicely. Still a 2-cycle with the 2 short hops, but it was very nicely done, saving a little bit of time there. We are on to the pick at this point. We are kitted out as nicely as we could be in terms of offensive weaponry. So this is going to be as quick of a fight in terms of weaponry as we can get. Oh, Qirn, yeah, happy flashes.
Yeah, that's what happens when you miss the 1 cycle against the Wizroads. You gotta wait. And here we go. Ganon fight. Didn't get the 1 cycle phase 1. I think he's got it here, but he's not really in a position to get 1 cycle phase 2 either.
Yeah, and playing it safe. Which, honestly, there's nothing against that. If you're in a situation where, I mean, honestly, after a seed like this, you're just going to play Ganon in such a way that you're comfortable with. It doesn't really matter which way you do it.
Yeah, like a second cycle on phase 1 and phase 2 doesn't mean nearly as much compared to dying.
Basically, that didn't even make up. That didn't even like end up overshadowing the time that he saved on not doing Smith Chain. So it all works out in the end.
Yeah. At this point, it seems like that is pretty much the difference.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting because I feel like what happened is we had a situation where Paraducks was a bit behind on that late hammer pull, but then it didn't end up super hurting him as we do get a stun there. Sometimes that's intentional, just to make sure that Ganon doesn't end up being right on your tail for that torch lighting. Sometimes it's unintentional. I couldn't tell you which it is for Paraducks, but I can tell you that I feel like Paraducks made a couple of plays because of that late hammer, and it ended up bringing him back. One of those obviously being skipping that mirrorless Smith Chain. It didn't have anything for us.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a bit of a routing inefficiency. I think overall his execution has been, at worst, on par with Qirn's. Both of them quite good in that regard, obviously.
Oh yeah, both these guys know how to clear a game. That is absolutely the case. Their execution has been absolutely top-notch. Nice little long shot there from Qirn. Taking 1 more cycle, I believe, but still cleaning it up pretty nicely.
And that's Paraducks. That's his 12th spin on Ganon. So all he's got to do now is cross the bridge.
Yep. 1x3 bridge standing in the way of Paraducks and AW. And there we go. Get your GGs in chat for the winner of our first race, Paraducks. Finishing in first place with an official race time.gg time of 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 39 seconds. Congratulations on basically full clearing the seed.
Yep. Qirn dropping into his Ganon fight here. We'll see if he can get any time saved, especially on these first 2 cycles.
Nice bonk there. That's one way to... Yep. You're in a situation where one of those fire bats would be the end of you, so not a bad idea to pull out that king.
Yeah, I can feel the lag from here, but it still beats dying.
The question is, would it be faster to do that or just pop a blue goo?
That.
It doesn't feel like it, though. It feels like you're losing minutes. Fun fact, both runners, so long as we don't get a Ganon fall, are going to get the same Ganon teleport. It does feel like Qirn's getting a bit more, but that's just kind of how it goes.
Yep, stuff like Ganon warps, Aga patterns. Actually, I think that's really it for boss RNG. That's hard seeded.
I feel like the beginning of Moldorm is also the same as well. I might be wrong about that, but I've seen races where runners have literally gotten the same Moldorm patterns and like both gotten knocked off immediately enough times that I just feel like it's also a thing. Could be completely incorrect, obviously. And then once you drop down there and start doing your own thing, Moldorm does, what Moldorm does, but...
Yeah, we do see Qirn here is doing a fair bit with the Fire Rod to get some triples, which Paraducks not quite so much able to do, especially with his use of the lamp early on in Phase 4 of the fight, but that's going to be a dead gain for Qirn. He's just got to cross the bridge as well.
And that was a seed. I feel like we might get some amusing responses either. Nice dash. All right, Qirn finishing in second place with an official race time.gg time of 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 5 seconds. So all things said and done, we're sitting at about 2.5 minutes of time difference, which is not bad. And like you said, is about the amount of time that it takes to do a Smith Chain mirrorless.
Yep. So we'll see if we've got the runners that are going to come on in and talk to us a little bit.
Goodness gracious, though. That was a seed.
Yep. We are joined by Paraducks, so GG, congratulations on taking game 1.
GG's. This race was, this seed was crazy.
You did everything.
I thought I was behind until the mirror. That hammer was in a kind of awful location, depending where the play you do. And yeah.
And we've got Qirn in here with us as well. GG.
Hey, thanks. GG, Paraducks.
GG.
So, how about that seed?
Yeah, I've been, I don't know about you, Paraducks, but the last few seeds I've had has just been like, everything's open, and I hate that. And then I end up going the wrong way.
Yeah, well, I don't think I've got a jet seed yet in the tournament, so that tells much.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, Qirn, you got the hammer like half an hour before Paraducks did, because Paraducks just did all the Dark World stuff first. So there was that. But yeah, honestly, that mirror being in behind the green pendant, was there a right way? I feel like the only thing you really could have skipped was Skull Woods. I mean, you had to go into Ice Palace. You had to go into TR. I feel like you're just checking everything.
I think you could have reasonably skipped. It sounds like Paradox skipped Smith Chain, but I think you also could have reasonably skipped Bumper Cave, Catfish, Pyramid Fairy, like you said, Skull Woods.
Pyramid Fairy had your Ice Rod.
Oh, you're right. Okay, never mind. That had Ice Rod, but Catfish.
Yeah, Catfish in the North Dark World stuff for sure.
Yeah, there wasn't much to skip, but I was worried about that for sure.
Yeah, although, Qirn, before we go on any further, some people are dying to know, what's with the pinball room in Skull Woods?
Did I not open the chest or something?
You did not open the chest.
There was a blue goo there.
That explains a lot, because I don't know what happened there, but I was leaving that room and I was like, wait, what item did I just get? And so I don't know if you guys saw, but I opened up my item menu and I'm like, well, it wasn't a dungeon item and I had 3 keys, so it must have been an item, and then I just left.
Gotcha. Okay. I thought you had been playing too much Cross Keys or Crossword lately and had just misremembered that as being a small key, because it still is when you play those modes.
Yeah, no, it was just, I don't know what I'll have to go back and see what happened in my actual movement there, but
you like lifted the skulls and then just walked away.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Okay. Yeah. Some people were just dying to know.
I was one of those people, to be fair.
Well, that would have been useful to have.
Actually, Paradox, I don't think you used either of yours, did you?
I don't think I've used any potion in this seed.
Wait, Qirn, you used a potion? I don't even recall you using one.
It was like for sword beams or something. I don't even remember anymore. Oh, it was for magic refill on some boss or something.
Okay, gotcha.
Might have been Cold Stare.
Yeah, it was Cold Stare, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's something, I guess. I checked the schedule. You guys have game 2 on Friday. Game 3 also on Friday if it's needed. So can we look forward to... I'm not going to ask if we can look forward to more of the same here. But look forward to something a bit exciting.
You know...
Right. You can't ask them to look forward to more of this when this seed took 140 and was basically...
And I just said that I'm not.
You know, I actually didn't hate that seed. Like, I'm a little bit... Yeah, I mean, like, whatever. But also, like, I didn't hate that. I had actually a lot of fun in that seed. I thought that there were interesting choices to make. It's just unfortunate that I made the wrong one. But otherwise, I thought it was pretty fun.
I agree.
That's fair. And it wasn't a seed where, like, it neglected to give you stuff. You know, you guys had 2 swords pretty early. You had a decent amount of hearts. It wasn't a situation where it's like, yeah, you can run through the whole seed swordless and keep walking because you're never, ever going to see the boots. Like, it wasn't one of those. So I can definitely see the appeal. And then, you know, mirror being go mode means that there's a bunch of stuff you didn't end up having to check. Now, given you had to check everything else, but at least you didn't have to worry about Graveyard Legend, like.
Yeah. Like, I will say that this wasn't a bad seed in the traditional sense, but it was very much a go everywhere, do everything sort of seed.
I mean, that seed, I thought that the hammer was in pod, so we need to go do Aganium.
Yeah. I think
that could have been it.
Yeah, and that explained why you prioritized Pyramid and Catfish so much after walking out of Palace of Darkness.
Oh, that would have been cool to, like, actually have to sequence break to get the hammer.
Yeah, he didn't. He did a little splash delete in the Dark Lake after doing Hype Cave.
Oh, sick, dude.
Yeah, it was really nice. I enjoyed it.
Sounds like you had more fun than me, Paraducks.
Yeah, I wrote it pretty good this seed, but I was always scared about Smith Chain having the mirror since I didn't do it.
And that ended up being most of the time difference. I mean, you won by about 2.5 minutes, mirrorless Smith Chain. It's pretty close. So it ended up being a good play. You know, wanting to shy away from that is iffy at times, because a lot of times you can be blessed with a mirror on purple chest or something similar. But in this case, it ended up saving you a couple checks, saving you a little bit of time.
Yeah. Anyways, I hate to do this, but I do want to cut in here. We are bringing you guys another race starting in less than 10 minutes here. We're going to have Flip Heel versus Warp Jig, so we're going to need to start wrapping up here pretty quick. We could talk about this seed for a little while. There was a lot of intrigue and interesting things, which sort of happens when you do everything, but either of y'all have any final thoughts you want to share?
Nope, just thanks for coming, y'all. I'm excited to watch it back.
It was definitely an exciting one the whole way through, so glad to have been able to talk about it.
Yeah, very much so. As Reg said, we've got a match coming up. We also have a couple more matches tonight, and then obviously a full slate of rando coming up for the upcoming week. We just have races just left and right, so keep an eye on the schedule there. Shout outs to both of our runners. Give Qirn a follow. Give Paraducks a follow. Also shout outs to our wonderful tracker pressing the buttons today, keeping us honest, because I can't commentate this stuff without those tracker lights being lit up. I'd need a piece of paper or something. Sorcerer Finch, thank you so much. In addition, GG's to my buddy Reg. It's always a blast commenting with you. And as per usual, I'm going to let you open us up and take us out.
Yep. We will see you guys over some other race, but definitely do stick around because we've got another good one coming right up.